please mute. We have a lot of background noise. And Cesar, if you can please confirm when the cameras are back on.
The cameras are back on and we're on public session.
All right, great. We're back in public session and we'll go to the report by the chair. I'm requesting approval of the minutes from the regular board meeting of April 14th, 2022 and the investment meeting of April 20th, 2022. Are there any changes to the minutes? Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed, please say nay. Any abstentions? Motion carries. All right, and we'll move now to the report by the executive director. Melanie, please go ahead.
Yes. The first item on the report by executive director is a fiscal 22 budget modification. It is a resolution that has been presented to the board to add additional resources to the call center in order to handle and respond to the unprecedented volumes that NYCERS is seeing that is expected to continue for several years into the future. So the board has a resolution. If the board would like to make a motion on that resolution.
Motion. Ray Santander, NYCERS.
Second?
I will second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Abstentions? The motion carries.
R26.
Thank you. I'll just note with unanimous consent, we will remove from today's agenda the proposed resolution on the special WTC trial committee recommendations since there have been no committee WTC review committees since the last board meeting. All right, Melanie.
The next item on the agenda for the executive director is the fiscal year 23 budget. The board has been presented with a proposed resolution for NYCERS regular budget for fiscal year 23 and another resolution for the tiers 3, 4, and 6 loans budget for fiscal year 23. The board has participated in several briefings, both on the budget modification and the regular and loans budget. So with that said, I present to the board the first resolution, which is for the NYCERS regular budget for fiscal year 2023. And would you like Tanai to read into the record the amount of the budget for this resolution?
Yes, please.
Or Karen, if you have that as well, you could read it in.
Okay, so do you want me to just read the resolved or just the where? I would do the whereas. Whereas Chapter 593 of the laws of 1996 requires the Board of Trustees to adopt an administrative budget for each fiscal year beginning July 1. And whereas the Executive Director has presented to the Board of Trustees a fiscal year 2023 administrative budget of $43,016,089 for personal services, 485 full-time positions, 30 part-time positions, 16 per diem positions, and $90,436,500 for other than personal services, for a total administrative budget of $133,452,589 and fringe benefit costs of $12,942,144. Therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Trustees adopts the recommendation of the Executive Director for NYCERS administrative budget for fiscal year 2023.
We can vote on this now, or we can
Yes,
vote on both resolutions together if you want.
We need to give them separate R numbers. So,
Okay, all right, great. So therefore, I will entertain a motion to approve the resolution for this coming year's budget.
For the
So
regular
moved.
budget.
For the regular budget. Thank you. Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All in favor, all opposed rather, nay? Abstentions? All right. Then let's read
Motion
into,
carries.
motion carries. Let's read into,
And it's R27. Sorry, Preston.
sorry, I'm rushing through. I'll slow down. All right, can we read the whereas, sorry, the be it resolved part of the loans budget also, Karen?
Okay, what I'm going to do is read the final whereas, which has the amounts in it, which is
Yep.
Executive Director recommends a fiscal year 2023 budget for the Tier 3, 4, and 6 loan program of $1,035,756 for personal services, 14 full-time positions, and $787,200 for other than personal services, for a total budget of $1,822,956 and $354,562 for fringe benefit costs. Therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Trustees adopts the recommendation of the Executive Director for the Tier 3, 4, and 6 loan budget for fiscal year 2023.
Any questions or discussion? So hear a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you. Thank you, Melanie and team, also for all of your work on this budget this year. It was a very thoughtful and careful analysis and presentation, I thought, and I think we're all very grateful for your work on it.
Thank you, R28, and thank you to the board for your support, particularly for the call center resources to help handle the unprecedented volume that we're seeing. The next item on the, 2 items on the agenda will be covered by our General Counsel, Elise Sisolak, which will be the legislative report update, and then a proposed resolution regarding open meetings law. So Elise, the legislative report update.
Or let me just share my screen. So Mike Salmon and I are going to be doing kind of a little tap dance back and forth to hopefully make it easier for you to understand the fiscal notes associated with the bills that have been introduced. So the first ones I'm going to list are ones where the fiscal note has been issued, and after each one, Mike, is going to talk about the fiscal bill and the costs. So the first one, as you will see, is A10022, and it extends the date, the law is in, it extends the COVID accidental death benefit law in effect for a longer period of time. It does not change the eligibility for retirees. It just extends the time frame for 2 years to December 31st, 2024. Mike, you want to go ahead?
Sure, and thanks. And as Elise said, we did produce a fiscal note for this legislation. What we do for this one is just get a cost for an average person. Obviously, the costs vary tremendously depending on who the individual is. So we gave an average, and the average annual employer contribution would increase by approximately $50,000 for each occurrence of death due to COVID. That would be covered by the bill.
Great. So the next one that you'll see on your screen is A1010190 S9056. Again, a fiscal note has been issued in this, and it increases the amount of the special accidental death benefit. And this is a bill that is passed every year for this increase. So it is not anything different from what we're used to seeing each year. And take it away, Mike.
Yeah, this one, so for the special accidental death benefit, every year the legislature votes to increase the benefit being paid to the beneficiary by 3%. This has been going on for 30 or 40 years now. Every year it's increased by 3%. And in fact, a few years ago now, 5 or 6 years ago, we now reflect that in all of our calculations that it's likely that this 3% increase will continue. So it's already factored into the cost of the plan.
The next two, the fiscal notes have not been requested yet. The first one is S9051, and that permits the funds to invest in mortgages guaranteed by the New York State Homes and Community Renewal. And the next one is S9085 that adds parents to the pecking order for the special accidental death benefit. And I'm sorry, and the last one also next two are going to be fiscal notes requested and not yet issued. So the first one is S9091, and it extends the special accidental death benefit for employees of the City of New York or the New York City Health and Hospitals Corporation in a title whose duties were to provide medical, behavioral health, dental, or other health-related services. And the last one is local law 0134-2022A. And Mike, am I right to say that there was not a fiscal note on this one?
That's correct.
Thank you. So this local law extends the implementation of the law to November 1st, 2022, that requires on all job postings that the salary range for the position must be posted. And that is all the news I have to report, and I'm happy to take questions if there are any.
Suggestion that going forward, we focus in on only the bills that have two house bills. This way it'd just be a little bit easier. I think in the beginning, it's good for the trustees to see it all, but I think that as we get further along in the year, it's easier just to focus on the two house bills.
Not a problem. We can do that.
That's just my suggestion.
If it's the will of the trustees, I'm happy to do that going forward.
Anyone have any objections to doing that? I think that's a good idea also. Okay.
Okay. So the next thing is a resolution regarding Chapter 56 of the laws of 2022, Part WW, that permits trustees who are not counted as a quorum to participate in meetings without being in a public location if there are extraordinary circumstances or unexpected events or factors. And you will find the resolution. I can put it up on the board if you want, but you have the resolution in front of you. Are there any questions?
This sounds familiar. Any questions? Thank goodness. Yeah, I'm looking for a motion to approve, right?
So moved.
And a second.
I have a question. You make sure you're voting on the resolution with the friendly amendments on it. Not the one, I don't think that's the one that's posted. Is it the one that's posted?
No, Karen, it's the one I emailed.
Right.
It's been circulated by email.
Yes, I think that's important to say because what's on convene is not the one that you're voting on.
All right, does anyone want to see the memo again that you just received by email during the break on the screen, or are we're all good?
No, we'll note receipt.
Noted for the record that it was distributed by Elise during the break to the trustees. All right, did I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you.
R29. And the next item on the agenda is the business operations update, which will be led by our Director of Retirement and Pension Benefits, Juliette Barnett. Juliet, you're muted.
Can you hear me now?
Now we can hear you. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you. Good afternoon, all. I will share my screen so that you can see the retirement filings. Everyone can see it?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, awesome. So as mentioned in previous months, the retirement filing applications have been steadily increasing over the last 3 years. And 2021 retirement filings exceeded 2020 filings by 8.5% and 2019 filings by approximately 25.4%, as you can see in the chart, the color-coded chart. We are seeing this increase continue as we move further into 2022. And last month, we received 895 retirement applications. And this is an increase of about 3% when compared to April of 2021, where we received 869 retirement applications. The increase in retirement filings continue to create challenges in maintaining a wait time of 5 months or less for the option letter process. As the board is aware, generating the option letter creates a challenge for our team. It is a highly manual process, but despite the increase, we're still able to maintain the wait time to 6 months. We are actively monitoring our progress in this area. I also want to share with the board that there are members with a retirement date greater than 6 months pending an option letter for reasons that require some action by the members. For example, some members need to submit vital records, Social Security award letters, or they need to make payments for deficits. At the end of April, we have approximately 646 retirement cases pending a resolution. Once these pending issues are resolved, the cases will be expedited through the regular process. Since we began to work towards reducing the wait time in June of 2020, we have sent out over 16,784 option letters. And of this number, 8,064, or approximately 50%, were generated last year in 2021. Last month, we sent out approximately 787 option letters. So the team is working, and they're working very hard to ensure that our members do receive their option letters on time. NYSERS has experienced staff turnovers, however, many of whom have retired. I would say within the last month or so, specifically in the retirement unit alone, we've had approximately 3 employees that have retired. And it starts from the managerial level down to regular staff. So the turnover is quite consistent as of late. However, during this challenging period, we're still trying to focus on filling our vacancies as quickly as possible and ensure that the new staff are trained properly. The length of time to train team members to perform this work with the numbers of cases that we're receiving and the complexity of tiers is quite significant. However, we're doing our best, and we will ensure that all employees are trained so that they continue performing, processing our cases appropriately. I'll now move on to our COVID update. To date, 413 COVID cases have been reported, and this is up from 410 that was reported last month. Of the number of not qualified as of May 2nd, 2022 is 123 for various reasons. Members that retired prior to 3/1 of 2020, withdrawn members who were not qualified, or vested members. Therefore, the adjusted number of COVID cases is 290. Of the 123 not qualified, 67 retired before the enactment of the law, and 56 did not meet the filing requirements. To date, of the 290 cases, 280 survivors, or 96%, were mailed a claim form. So to date, we have about 260 who returned the claim form. Of the number of respondents, 173 of the beneficiaries chose accidental death benefit, and 86 chose the ordinary death benefit. Currently, we have 151 respondents on payroll. Before the board today are 5 resolutions for COVID-19 benefits. We understand the urgency in reducing the wait time for our death benefit cases, and we are diligently working to reduce the wait time for the COVID cases as well as the ODB benefits. Any questions? Okay, thank you.
Just unmuting. And next on the agenda is a client services update, which will be led by our Director of Client Services, Roy Holder.
Thank you, Melanie. Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to begin my update today with an update on the call center. As we've mentioned to the board, the call center volume of calls continue to outpace our available resources. I'm going to share my screen for the benefit of the board to sort of look at the trends over the last year. Moment. Let me know when you're seeing my screen.
Looks good. Thanks, Roy.
Thank you. So this chart depicts call center activity, call volumes over the last year, comparing 2020, 2021, and 2022 year to date. As you can see, beginning April 16 of 2021, when we introduced phase 1 of the call center service project, as we trend that the call volume for that month steadily increased. Between the months of March 2020 and the time when we transitioned, the call center was on a technology that limited the number of incoming calls. And so that would explain why the numbers appear to be lower. But as you can see, we are at a pace that is far, far beyond the resources we have available to handle these calls. For the month of April, we had 47,900 calls, averaging 2,281 calls per day. April's call volume was more than 20% higher than our resource could handle. But despite that high volume, we again were able to improve things like our talk time. In April, we had a talk time of 4 minutes and 19 seconds, 2 seconds lower than that in March, and those 2 seconds do matter because talk time enables the call center to answer more incoming calls. So the lower, the lower the talk time, the more we're able to answer the calls and more fully answer the members' questions. Our percentage of calls answered in the month of April was 61%. The call center has historically, as I said, been staffed to assist approximately 1,800 calls per day based on prior call volume. However, with these sustained volumes averaging at times more than 28% higher than the resource can handle, we have responded with reallocating staff and working on improving performance, but it has not been sufficient to meet the daily high demand. Right now, I want to say to the board, we appreciate the board's support of our proposal to add call center resources to address the increased volume that will only continue as we projected and will only increase over time. We're making progress on the design of our call center as a service IVR. However, the IVR will need to be released in multiple iterations to align with the availability of the needed data from LRP phase 1 implementation. This first release is expected to be implemented by June 30th, with a second release in July and subsequent releases targeted to coincide with the release of Phase 1 LRP. Clearly understand the urgency to fully implement Phase 2 IVR so that we can assist in offsetting the high call volumes, and will work diligently to make that happen. We'll continue to focus our improvement efforts on overall performance improvements for the call center, recruiting to fill call center vacancies that exist, and augmented call center resources with staff from other teams when possible. I'm going to pause to see if the board has any questions on the call center. For my next presentation, to the board, I'd like to talk about client consultant services other than call center. And let me share my screen. You know when you see my screen. I'm going to begin with scheduled on-site appointments, and these are appointments that are geared towards those seeking retirement counseling in person. And these appointments are expected to increase over time, as my peer Gillette said, they're noticing an increase in retirement, and so we expect that trend to continue for those folks who are seeking to come in on-site and have a consultation with a member of our staff. The monthly request for on-site counseling appointments so far this year has outpaced the monthly average in 2021, and as I mentioned, expected to continue. For those coming on site, we administer a survey to get feedback on their overall experience, especially around feelings of safety. So we had 33 applicants who took a survey, respondents, and all but one felt safe or somewhat safe throughout the entire on-site visit. Actual feedback we got from them were things like Ms. Olga was a pleasurable person to work with. Olga happens to be one of our counselors. Very satisfied with the service received. The experience was great and fast. I'm not going to read through the entire list, but overall, when members come on site, meet with our staff, they are very happy with the service they're receiving. We also survey them to ask about alternatives. If we're not coming on site, what would you choose? And so, so the number of clients providing feedback, though the number of clients providing feedback did decline over time, those surveyed that video and phone consultations were the top choices for them. Interest in dropping off documents has declined over time. Client walk-in services. So these are clients who come to our Dropbox to either drop off a document, or sometimes they have an inquiry that they need urgently answered, and staff then address that with them. So as the walk-in services, the trend has been upward since January and has leveled off in April. But folks are still coming in to get things like award letters. Maybe they've got a real estate transaction they need to conduct, and so they need an award letter printed immediately for them. A reprint of their 1099, which was one of the high volume transactions during the months where the tax season was. These are some of the things that they come in for. Sometimes they have questions about survivor benefits that we may offer to get them an answer to. And then there are others who come just to simply drop off a form they've completed, been notarized, and we take those forms and get them scanned into the system and processed. Scheduled video conferences. Now, this is a service that myself and the team are very proud of, that we introduced it during the pandemic, and it has served us well, sort of aid folks in a time when they could not see us in person or chose not to see us in person. And retirement counseling by video continues to be a very popular choice for clients seeking to finalize their retirement process. It's stops them again, as I mentioned, from having to travel in, if they choose not to travel into NYPPF, and still have that sense of meeting someone face to face, even by video. Schedule phone calls. For those who are more comfortable having a sometimes 30-minute or 45-minute conversation by phone counseling session, we offer this service to allow them to ask relevant questions about their pending retirement. After a high in the month of January, members choosing to use this service, this seems to be leveling off, but it's still averaging higher than it did in 2021. I'll turn my attention to My NYPPF, which is our online portal. Active member registration saw a 36% increase in April compared to March. The high retiree registration, we were very excited when we saw a very high retiree registration in the month of March. It appeared to have been an anomaly, but retirees are still signing up for My NYPPF, which is encouraging. And overall, registrations in the month of April grew by 5%. We now have a total of 210,711 individuals registered for online services. Our chatbot, Terry, is still maintaining an accuracy rate of 96% in the month of April, answering correctly 58,021 inquiries out of 61,884. Some of the things that came up that we need to create new information for Terry to consume on are need to update my calendar for 2022. My 1099 amount is wrong. What are the next steps I need to do regarding my pension after I resign? What is the tax identification number for NYPPF? That's the first. That's worth putting in the chatbot's memory bank. And I'll pause to see if there are any questions on any of the updates. Thank the board for its attention. Lenny?
Thank you, Roy. The next item on the agenda will be our technology modernization project updates, which will be led by Deputy Director of the Project Management Office, Tim Ellis, and Deputy Director Janine Donahue.
Thank you, Melanie. Okay, can everyone see my screen?
Yes, looks good. Thank you, Tim.
Okay. All right, so I will begin with the call center as a service project, followed by Janine will cover the legacy replacement project. So just to review the phase 2 objectives of the CCAS call center as a service project, is to implement the interactive voice response system, which will provide self-service options to members and retirees, and to implement the voice print technology to safeguard information available through the IVR. And an example of the self-service for the IVR would be to request a form. So as Roy mentioned earlier, we're moving forward with the phase 2 implementation. We kicked the project off on April 5th, and the first deliverable of the project is going to be the Genesis and Amelia phase 2.0 call steering with authentication and right out to the live agent. So that's going to be at the end of June, end of our fiscal year 22. Roy also mentioned that these phases are also aligned with the LRP deliverables. So Amelia phase 2.1 will introduce account data announcement self-service. You'll be able to look at eligibility for a loan, the loan balance, and the maximum amount of a loan. And we're anticipating that to be end of July 26th this summer. And then finally, Amelia phase 2.2, that will provide loan application status. It'll also make the call center rep aware whether the caller is nearing retirement or they've recently submitted an application. Those would be flags that will point that out. And then we would introduce the voice biometrics enrollment into the IVR, and that would all be in November, end of November, 11/28/22. Any questions on the call center as a service project? Okay, I'm going to turn it over to Janine for the LRP update then.
Thank you, Tim. Good afternoon, everyone. So overall, the LRP Phase 1 project is in a red status. Accenture did identify an additional 4 weeks to complete development and testing for Phase 1 functionality. As a result of this additional time, we did add an additional sprint, and the need for extending the timeline is attributed to the increase in story points required to establish a complete working solution for Phase 1. So development timelines are taking a little bit longer than anticipated. These changes are at no cost increase to NYSERS. And while the team has made substantial improvement on development, defects do continue to increase, which is a risk as we move into system integration testing. LRP Phase 1 schedule overall continues to be at risk, and we're working closely with the system integrator on the remaining activities to support completion of both development and system integration testing. Recruitment of our consultants to support the project continues, and to date we have 18 of 42 hired with 24 in progress. And change management, communications, as well as our training strategies and plans have been developed, and the team is continuing to work on the end user training materials. We'll talk more about that in the upcoming slides. Next slide, please.
Just remind people to mute if they're not speaking. Thanks.
And again, as we previously shared with the board, Phase 1 is a foundational setup of the new system. And you'll notice that sprints 10, 11, and 12, you'll notice that sprint 12 is marked as an issue. And this is, again, due to the remaining user stories for development, as well as the associated unit testing of those stories. Next slide, please. And this is just an overall view of Phase 1 for LRP, and barring no major issues, Phase 2 will commence shortly before our hypercare period ends. You'll notice that sprint 12 again is an issue, and this is the additional sprint that was not projected in our plan for Phase 1. System integration testing, user acceptance testing, deployment, and hypercare do continue to remain a risk on the project. And again, that is due to, that is dependent upon the completion of successful testing. The completion for Sprint 12 was May 10th. So the timeline has now expired. And at this time, NYSERS and Accenture are working to validate if all required functionality has been configured before we enter into system integration testing. So there is a little bit of a pause right now. Next slide, please. So as we've presented in prior board meetings, these are the 5 objectives for the organizational change management of Phase 1, and we'll be providing you some updates on that. Next slide. So we want to make sure that all of our activities and communications align with one of our 5 objectives. And here's what we did in April and early May. So for our monthly Change Champion meeting, in the May meeting, the champions received a preview of end user training. Additionally, they learned about upcoming change management activities, such as the LRP lounges and how they can help make those a success. In the LRP monthly update, we provided NYSERS colleagues with an overview of the LRP Phase 1 extension, and it details the reasons behind the decision and how individuals within NYSERS can ask questions. The LRP monthly update showcases the upcoming LRP Lounge series and gives NYSERS team members another opportunity to register for those sessions. And lastly, the LRP monthly updates include a new colleague spotlight, which encompasses quotes from future NYSPAS users about the project. And in preparing for our lounge sessions, these sessions are hosted by our system integrator and NYSERS. And these meetings occur every other week from mid-May to go live. Our LRP SMEs, which are our subject matter experts, join these calls to also answer questions from the NYSERS staff on the topic for that week. NYSERS staff also has opportunities to submit their questions in advance of the sessions during the sessions as well. Accenture and OCM have been preparing the logistics and prepping facilitators in advance. And we actually had our first meeting yesterday. And the topic of that session was NYSPAS. What is NYSPAS? And again, we continue to develop the phase 1 end user training material. And those reviews have started. And we have also started our knowledge transfer planning as well. Next slide, please. So for our Change Champion program, with 4 months as of right now until phase 1 go live, the Change team took a step back to think about the most critical items to be shared with our Change Champions between now and go live. We've embedded the revised roadmap, and there are key lessons learned from our stakeholder engagement activities to date. The plan for Change Champions is to introduce and reinforce the key system changes for phase 1 go live so that they can have meaningful conversations with their colleagues. And as we get closer to go live, the focus shifts to go live readiness and prep, making sure that Change Champions are prepared for training and can be advocates for their peers. Next slide, please. So this is kind of an overview of what our phase 1 end user training will look like. And you will see that end user training takes place prior to go live. And all current NYSEWork users will receive end user training. Additionally, our technical support staff that need to be aware of some of these key changes will also participate in training courses during that time. The Change team will work closely with the operational staff to schedule sessions that align with our business calendar. Multiple sessions of each course will be offered to ensure team members can have options to choose so that we have a time that works best for them. And lastly, the joint OCM team will identify a point of contact from each division to help sign their staff up for classes. Next slide, please. And here is just a course overview. So there are 7 courses with 27 sections in which we call modules. Of those 7 courses, 4 are expected to be instructor-led and 3 are self-paced. Our change team is still finalizing that breakdown, but that is where we are to date. Our courses that are instructor-led are approximately 16 modules that will be delivered, and the team expects to hold 72 unique training sessions. Approximately half of them will be in person and half will be in virtual. And the Change team recently surveyed training participants to arrive at this split. For in-person sessions, there will be a cap of 16 people per session. And for the remote sessions, there will be a cap of 30 people per session. And that's basically just to ensure that if people have questions, we have the right amount of time allocated to ask those questions, to answer those questions. Next slide, please. And that's our overview for LRP phase 1. Does anyone have any questions?
Great, thank you, Janine. And the next item on the agenda will be covered by Deputy Executive Director Karen Mazza, and it's on the renewal of the membership for the Principles of Responsible Investment.
Yes, last but not least, NYSERS was a founding signator on the Principles for Responsible Investing, which is a United Nations EP finance initiative surrounding environmental, social, and governance ESG issues and the long-term performance of investment portfolios. We are recommending that we continue supporting the foundation. The amount for annual monetary contribution is 8,781 euros, and that was as of last week. It may change by the time we pay it. So I'm asking that the board approve that we continue our support for UNPRI in the amount of either 8,781 euros or whatever the euro conversion is as of today.
And that was budgeted already, I presume.
It comes out of it doesn't come out of the NYSER's budget. It comes out of the investment expenses.
Got it.
I would make a motion to support that resolution.
Sorry, any second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you, Karen.
R30. R30, did you get that, Yapi?
Got it.
And
Okay, so we'll move now to the report by the Chief Actuary, Michael Sammett.
So before we do the actuaries report, I just want to note that the second item on the actuaries report is actually intended for the COVSF board rather than the NYSER's board. So I respectfully request that we just note that that is in there and no need for a presentation, as only 2 of the 11 members of this board sit on the correction officer's VSF.
And I was going to say the same thing. So the first letter, there are 2 letters for the COVSF. One is for this board with a resolution. The other one is for the COVSF board. And just for this board to note, what this is back in September of 2020, this office had issued the preliminary skim for fiscal year 2020, the amount transferred from NYSERS to the COVSF. And our original preliminary estimate was 0. We have now confirmed, now that we've finished the work related to this fiscal year, we've confirmed that there will be no skim transferred for fiscal year 2020. And the resolution is simply for the board to adopt the actuary's calculation that it is 0. Are there any questions on that? Okay. So there is a resolution to adopt related to that.
Do I have a motion?
So moved. Motion to move.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Abstentions?
The Comptroller's office abstains.
Motion carries.
R31.
Okay, I got 2 more things. First is the fiscal note report. And John Dorsey is going to be disappointed, but I'm not going to go through these one by one. Since the last board meeting, we have issued 18 fiscal notes that relate to NYSERS. If you have any questions, let me know. Just a couple highlights. There are a couple related to Tier 6, a couple related to improving the cost of living adjustment for the plan. There were a few related to improved benefits for corrections officers, a couple related to purchasing military service, and then there were a few for specific groups such as EMTs and fire protection inspectors for a couple. Another thing to note is we've really made a big effort this year to stay on top of fiscal notes, to get them completed. And just so the board knows, today we'll be sending out the 50th fiscal note for this year, 5050. Last year at this time, we had sent out 25. So we're really making a concerted effort to stay on top of fiscal notes. If you have any questions about any, obviously I'm available to answer. And the last thing I want to do is something a little different. I'd like to spend just a couple minutes on a couple of what I think might be interesting things, interesting actuarial things, which I know sounds like an oxymoron, but just mention, so there's a publication, Pension Investments, every year puts out a report of a list of the largest pension plans in the country. And this was as of September of last year. And you may have heard in the past that the NYPPFs are the fourth largest pension plan in the country. There is the CalPERS, California employees. The next one is California teachers. Third one is the New York State employees, which includes the state police and fire. And then fourth is always the NYPPFs. But what I think is also interesting is if you just look at NYSERS alone, NYSERS would have been number 28 on the list, or 27, I guess, of the largest plans in the country. And this is public and private. So, for example, NYSERS is a bit smaller than, let's say, the state of Michigan or the state of North Carolina or IBM or General Motors. But it's larger than the state of Maryland, the Pennsylvania School Employees Plan, and plans such as Federal Express, Microsoft, ExxonMobil. So I just thought it's kind of, just want to make a note that, this is quite a large plan. It's one of the top 30 in the country if you just look at NYSERS alone. Last thing I just want to mention is just about our office, which is that we were fortunate and we just hired 3 entry-level actuaries this week. They all started on Monday to replace some of the retirements we had. And so, hiring 3 for us is a big deal when we only have 40 employees in the office, 30 to do actuarial work. 3 is a good number. They won't be of much use for the next, for about 6 months or so. They ramp up, but still, you've got to start somewhere. But we were very fortunate, and we've actually got to have a 4th one starting once you finish graduating college next month. These 3, one came from CUNY, one graduated with a Master's of Actuarial Science from Columbia. And the 3rd one is very interesting. It's a woman who's been out of the workforce raising her children for at least 10 years and never had no background in actuarial experience. And a couple of years ago, just decided she might like this, started taking the exams on her own, which is, first of all, not easy, especially when you're 10 or 15 years out of college. And number 2, it's not inexpensive, and she's passed a number of exams. So there's an interesting background, and she started as well. So that's it. I'm glad, again, you saved the best for last. And if anybody has any questions on anything I talked about, otherwise,
I think it's
my presentation.
I think it's noteworthy what raising children will drive you to, I guess. So it's I assume those starting actuaries are entry age normal actuaries, you meant. Sorry.
I'll have to, let me know when you're doing your stand-up routine.
All right, yeah, I'll be here all week. And then we certainly appreciate the cocktail topic tidbits. Those will be much appreciated. All right, thank you, Michael. Melanie, will you read in the laid over cases, please?
Yes, the following case is to be read into the record as laid over from this Board of Trustee denial calendar number R17, member number 835159. The following cases are to be read into the record as referred back from this Board of Trustee denial calendar number R17. Member number 1H1705, member number 527742, member number 593020, member number 598728, and member number 947130. And that concludes the laid over and referred back cases.
Thank you. Do we have a motion to adopt the calendar book?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed, no. Any abstentions? All right, the motion carries.
Motion to adjourn?
Second?
Second. Yeah.
Wow, I couldn't even catch my breath soon enough to try and get ahead of John. All in favor?
Aye.
I think it was unanimous. Thank you all very much. See you next time.